Hello everybody, welcome to this video. It's the continuation in the series on Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. Everything that I go through in this video series comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to Much Ado About Nothing, written by Edna Hobbs, available from mrbruff.com and amazon.co.uk for £3.99. So the first thing I want to do is just to summarise what actually goes on in Act 3, Scene 1. This is the companion scene to the previous one. Here Beatrice is led to believe she's overhearing a private conversation and the hot gossip that Benedict loves Beatrice, but dares not tell her for fear of being mocked. So the scene opens with Hero sending Margaret to tell Beatrice she's been gossiped about by Hero and Ursula in the arbour, a sheltered area in the garden covered with climbing plants and shrubs where Beatrice can easily hide. Now Hero makes sure that she'll overhear the conversation and tells Ursula what to say. Their story is that Don Pedro and Claudio are convinced that Benedict loves Beatrice and wants to tell her. But Hero has advised her not to because Beatrice will break any man down by mocking him. They praise Benedict and imagine how cruel Beatrice would be to him if she knew of his love. It would be better, they decide, if Benedict were told to forget Beatrice, and they end off by saying how highly thought of Benedict is in Italy to emphasise what a catch he would be, and then change the subject to Hero's wedding plans as they walk off to choose her dress. Left alone, the stunned Beatrice thinks about the bad reputation her wit has earned her. She reconsiders her attitude and decides to change her mind about Benedict and marriage. "I will requite thee," she says to the imagined Benedict. So let's get into the analysis. The first thing is quite interesting in Shakespeare's use of form. While the men speak in prose, normal sentences when tricking Benedict, the women speak in blank verse, which indicates a more elevated form of speaking. Only around a quarter of the play is written in verse, so it's worth noticing when characters use it. Now, we don't know exactly why Shakespeare uses verse here, but it might indicate that the men are just having a bit of fun, trying to get Benedict to eat his words and get married after all, whereas for the women, marriage is a serious thing, and they really do want to help Beatrice overcome her resistance to it. Similarly, Benedict speaks in prose when reviewing the revelation in his soliloquy, and Beatrice moves up to verse after overhearing that Benedict loves her. In fact, though only 10 lines, Beatrice's speech is like a sonnet in rhyme scheme, suggesting she is very much in love. Structurally, the whole play features pairs, opposites, and balances. If you think about it, there are 2 pairs of lovers, opposite in their disposition and expectation. There are 2 brothers, one caring and forgiving, one a villain. There are 2 weddings, there are 2 sets of deception. And this scene is one of a pair, the counterpart to Benedict's being tricked into realising his love for Beatrice, where Beatrice, overhearing that Benedict loves her, decides to return his love. And we could call this a positive deception, as the point of it is to bring about a reconciliation between the 2 sparring partners. As with Benedict's deception, the use of language is really important. Countryside imagery is used in this scene to comment on Beatrice's gullibility in believing the trick. She's described as a lapwing. We've talked about a lapwing before, a bird that darts along in short runs, then seems to freeze before running on again. Similarly, after the bird imagery comes the fishing metaphor. The pleasantest angling is to see the fish cut with her golden oars the silver stream and greedily devour the treacherous bait. When Ursula later reports she's limed, "I warrant you, we've caught her, madam," she's saying that they've trapped Beatrice. And using bird lime, a white calcium powder, was a way of ensnaring or trapping birds. If we compare this to Act 2, Scene 3, again Shakespeare uses a bird, a hooked fish and a trap to describe the eavesdropper being lured in to listen to the conversation set up to trick them and into recognising their feelings for what they are. There's a big debate, isn't there? Are they just tricked into this relationship, or does the trick just serve the purpose of causing them to really acknowledge and be honest about the fact that they do love each other? So in terms of themes, the major themes, of course, are love. The play explores 2 types of love: admiration or infatuation, as represented by Hero and Claudio, who hardly speak to each other, and then the tried and trusted relationship based on a warts-and-all knowledge, such as Beatrice and Benedict. Claudio and Hero follow the conventional procedures of the aristocratic upper class Elizabethan courtship, wooing by a representative of the groom, negotiation and settlement of the dowry, a formal betrothal, finally a wedding ceremony. As individuals, these characters also represent the Elizabethan ideal of an honourable, noble soldier and a beautiful, modest heiress. On the other hand, Beatrice and Benedict are far from ideal. They're both individuals, too opinionated and outspoken, with no tolerance for hypocrisy, and it's been said that their relationship embodies what Shakespeare, in one of his sonnets, calls a marriage of true minds. A lot of Shakespeare's plays present this idea that the idealised courtly love presentation of sort of over-the-top, hyperbolic, unrealistic love is doomed to fail, and what we should have is that realistic, honest approach that acknowledges the faults and failings in each other but loves anyway. Just a little bit on context. Shakespeare often used well-known stories as the basis for his plays, and the tale of a man thinking that his betrothed is unfaithful because somebody sees her at the window was centuries old in Elizabethan times, and many versions of it already existed, a bit like fairy tales today. So Claudio and Hero's story is an old one, but Beatrice and Benedict seem to be Shakespeare's own creation. And perhaps again this is why Claudio and Hero have this traditional relationship, whereas Beatrice and Benedict have, particularly to an Elizabethan audience, a more modern love story. So please do pick up the ebook, guys. It's got line-by-line translations of everything in the play and detailed analysis too.